Me, name's Sonny. Welcome to Super Mario Odyssey. So, today I'm going to do a little bit of a how it works. Well, it's kind of a how it works. It's a little bit of a talk about stuff that I was already mentioning in other videos, especially with the Tubby Supercat videos and some of the Mario 64 reimagined stuff. So one of the things that I wanted to do was cover some of the details about platformers in general. Now the first thing I want to talk about is the camera system. That's the easiest one to talk about, and what I'm doing here is I'm actually running 3 games at once on 3 desktops. Brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Just heads up before anyone starts whining, I do own all 3 of these games. That is Mario Odyssey, Banjo-Kazooie, and Super Mario 64. So, let's get back to Mario Odyssey and have a look at the camera. Actually, we'll not start with the camera of Mario Odyssey. Let me freeze the game and switch over to Mario 64. Right, so when I was making the Mario 64 Reimagined project, I mentioned a lot about the camera and how it actually rotates and moves based on what Mario is looking for, which direction Mario is looking at. So let's have a look here. So here we go, I'll place the mouse cursor right on top of Mario's head. You can see when he turns, the camera pushes out in the direction that Mario looks. I mentioned this in both of my Mario 64 Reimagined project videos. This is part of the camera system that I'd written for that project, and I used that same camera system for Tubby Supercat project. The demo that went out is using this camera system that I replicated based on this, and the Project TX videos, the camera that you see in that, the third person camera, that's also the same camera controller that I built based on Mario 64. So as you can see here, the camera always sort of recenters back to the 0 point where Mario is facing. But the cool thing with this camera going left or right is that it only does it in the horizontal axis. It doesn't do it in a vertical axis. So it's not actually pushing in front of Mario, it's only pushing in front of Mario on the left and right. If you go down, for example, you'll see that the cursor doesn't go vertically up or down. That's because the camera is not going closer or further away from Mario, it's only moving left and right. Well, it's only looking left and right. Obviously the camera's moving because it's orbiting around Mario. The other thing you can notice then, if I place the mouse there and then just turn around completely, you'll see that as the camera orbits completely around, the mouse cursor, which is the center of the camera, always stays perfectly in line. So here we go. As you can see, it stays vertically in line with the top of Mario's cap. That's because, like I said, it's not moving forward, it's not moving forward or back, right? It's only moving left, it's only moving right, which means that as it orbits around Mario, obviously now he's facing right, so it's a bit to the right, and then now he's facing forward. So now the camera resets itself via a lerp. Let's have a look at how Banjo-Kazooie does it, because it's similar, but it's not the same. Now the thing with Banjo-Kazooie, I have a little bit more control over the camera. Oh, Kazooie was about to pop out there. Let's get into this nice space over here. And the thing with Banjo-Kazooie is that it does the same thing, except it doesn't orbit the camera. So you can see here, if I look to the left, the camera just stays still, it doesn't orbit around him, and it faces to the left. If I turn right, it faces to the right. But you'll notice that the mouse is no longer aligned with the top of Banjo's head. You can see when I move forward, the camera actually moves slightly forward. If I look down, the camera moves slightly down, and you can see that the mouse cursor has gone out of line, right? So that's the problem. That's actually a weird thing where Mario 64 always aligns it vertically so that when you look left, it moves to the left. When you look right, it moves to the right, but it doesn't move forward and back. Banjo-Kazooie does the same thing, but it doesn't care about the vertical. The problem with that is that you get this sort of weirdness of the camera moving when you want to move the character around a little bit more rapidly, right? And that means if you're looking at the animations of Banjo, for example, try and watch Banjo's animations as I move around. You see how it becomes quite frustrating to watch because the camera's just swinging wildly around? Okay, well let's have a look at the most advanced version of this sort of system, Mario Odyssey. So here we go, game is running. As you can see, when Mario turns around, absolutely nothing happens. Now, fair enough, I have free control over the camera, but I'm not going to touch the right analog stick. So as you can see, Mario turns around, nothing happens. So have they deleted the system? No. What they've done is they've changed it. So now it only moves while Mario is moving. So here we go. I'll just move Mario forward a little bit and then center the mouse on the top of his cap. Now as I move to the left, you'll see Mario pulls out of the camera center, and then suddenly the mouse has gone in front of Mario. Right? Mario can still turn around while he's standing in place. The camera won't move, but it's moved to the left because Mario was facing left as he was moving. When I'm moving again, as I'm moving right, the camera is now pushed to the right because Mario was moving and facing to the right. But now Mario can move however he wants and the camera will stay to the right. So now if I move forward or if I move back, the camera will do the same thing, trying to recenter itself slowly and surely. It's very, very slow. It'll recenter itself over time. I think that is actually center. I probably didn't have it center when I placed the mouse, right? So as you can see, it's doing the same thing as Mario 64 without the orbit. Of course, it'll orbit as you move, but it only does the camera movement while Mario is moving. And if Mario is moving really slowly, it actually does it very, very slowly. So you can see I'm moving right for quite a while, and when I stop, it's still quite central. Okay, so there we go. We've got a really custom version of a camera idea, and you can see how it's evolved from the N64 days to this much more advanced version here. However, it's still the Mario 64 method and not the Banjo-Kazooie. As you can see, if I place the mouse right here on top of his head, I'll move to the left and it's still in line with the top of his head. I'll move to the right, it's still in line with the top of his head. I move down, it's still in line with the top of his head. That's because it's not doing what the Banjo-Kazooie camera controller is doing. It's not moving vertically, it's not moving forward and back. It always keeps the same distance. And this means now, with this sort of finalized version of this camera idea, I need to improve mine to sort of match this system. With this finalized version, you get this, you get the ability to actually see Mario's animations without the camera swinging around all over the place. Let's see that in each of the games. So here we go, we've got the original version, which is Mario 64. As you move around, you can see the camera really swings around quite a lot. Move to Banjo-Kazooie, it's even worse, because now it also goes vertically, it also goes in and out, forward and back. And so you get this really annoying swinging motion. And then you move to Mario Odyssey, and you can just, you can do that, and nothing happens to the camera. It's just beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. By the way, there's something magical about playing Mario Odyssey when you're playing the other two games. The character controller is just beyond incredible. Now, let's talk a little bit about the character controller. So first thing you'll notice is that on the animation side, Mario can't actually sneak anymore. Look, here's me moving at the slowest speed possible. He's actually a little slidey when he's moving that slow because the animation just doesn't match up to his actual movement speed. When Mario 64 you do that, oh actually I need to freeze that in place. In Mario 64 when you do that, he does a walk and then he'll switch into a tiptoe. And in fact he can actually tiptoe while he's standing very, very slowly. So there we go. But you'll also notice that in Mario 64, when you do that, so here we go, I'll do that now, and Mario switches into a tiptoe only after a few moments, right? He doesn't immediately go into his tiptoe animation. So there we go. Oh, let me try and... There we go. It takes him a second before he switches to the tiptoe animation. Why? Well, that's because to get a nice smooth blend when you're moving normally, so the gameplay is normally you sort of moving, walking around and running around, to get a nice smooth blend in the animations, they don't switch to the tiptoe animation immediately because the tiptoe animation looks completely different. You see how Mario's head bounces quite a lot compared to the walk animation where it's very flat. There we go, quite flat. If I keep the mouse above Mario's hat, you can actually tell. So there we go, quite flat, and then the bounciness of his tiptoe and the way his chest bounces as well quite a lot. So there we go. All of that would look really weird if it immediately blended into it as you started the walk animation. So it's a good idea. It's a really good idea that they've inbuilt there. where he doesn't actually switch immediately to the sneaking animation. Now, there's actually a different set of animations in this game. So obviously Mario 64 is the only one with a sneaking animation, but it's the same thing across all three games, where you've got this sort of blend between different animation states depending on the speed of the character controller. And with Mario 64 and Mario Odyssey, you actually have a speed change depending on whether you're running up or down, or running very, very fast down hills. So here we go. If you do a long jump, you can see Mario's animation speeds up. Let's try and get that going. Here we go. There you could see and you could hear it too. Mario's animation is actually just speeding up quite a lot, right? And that of course happens in Mario Odyssey. They've got a much more advanced version in Mario Odyssey, where he actually does nicer looking animations when he's running fast. So there we go. You can see him lift his hands up immediately upon doing that, right? So let's get over to here and use one of these things, and of course you can see that animation even better because now he's running at super speed, and there we go, while he's at high speed, and it blends back to normal. Unfortunately though, they took out Mario's sneak animation, and even that speed is kind of removed as well. The analog stick is very sort of precise but also not precise. Now of course when you look at Banjo-Kazooie, we do not have the same amount of states here. Banjo-Kazooie is a little bit more sort of minimal in comparison to any Mario game really. So here we go, we've got the slower speed, which is him sneaking. He does have a sneak animation, which is really cool. And it seems to follow the same rule set, but I'm having trouble sort of precisely getting... No, it doesn't. So it doesn't follow the same rule set as Mario 64. It does immediately switch into the sort of sneak blend. But that sneak blend it's much more like the regular walking animation, so it's not a problem. However, Banjo does have much less animation going on. So here we go, you've got the sneak blend, the sneak animation, then you've got the walk animation, and then it immediately switches into the jog. And that jog animation is the same one, right? It's just the same one. It doesn't matter how fast you're moving. It's always this one animation speed, right? And slopes don't actually change that at all. Now you'll notice here, if I could control the camera, you'll notice here as he slows down, that animation still stays, right? It doesn't switch into a sneak animation because Banjo's going slowly when he slows down because of this. And that's because I'm still pushing the analog stick at full speed. That means that Banjo doesn't play the animation based on his movement speed. It's not the same style of a physics engine going on here with Banjo-Kazooie as it is with any Mario game. Mario games are built with an actual world physics going on. Banjo-Kazooie, not the same. You probably think, okay, well there's a sliding system, so obviously there's some level of physics going on there, but it's not the same, and I'll show you that in a moment. But as you can see here, I can sneak by pushing the analog stick slowly, but if I start moving, he immediately switches to the high speed. In fact, the game doesn't really care about whether I'm running fast to do the slide and auto turn, right? You can do that immediately upon standing still, as you can see there, right? Sometimes it doesn't do it. Sometimes I'm not precise enough to turn, but there you go. While I'm standing still, he does a skid and turn, right? That'll never happen in a Mario game. Now, let's look at something a little bit more crazy. So here we go. It's going to compare between Mario 64 and Banjo-Kazooie now, because Mario Odyssey doesn't have this mechanic, and that is sliding. So here we go. Oh, not on that. On that instead. Right, so with Mario 64, there is a sliding mechanic, but it's based on the physics of Mario 64, right? So it's actually based on some level of physics. And here we go, we can actually see it here. It's kind of difficult because there's trees everywhere. But here we go. This area will cause me to slide, but it only cause me to slide if I stop, right? If I'm moving faster, it won't cause me to slide until I stop. If I let go of the analog stick, it will cause me to slide. If I run down it, it immediately pushes me into a slide. Now this is how I built the Tubby Supercat system, where it actually just simply looks at whether you've slowed down enough or if you're moving down in the direction of the slope, right? Banjo-Kazooie doesn't do this, right? So you can see if I'm running faster with Mario, he'll make it up, and it doesn't matter about timing. So if I'm moving nice and slowly, I can keep Mario going until I stop, right? That doesn't apply in Banjo-Kazooie. Have a look at Banjo-Kazooie's mechanic. So here we go. I'll jump on here, I can stand still, and then he'll go into a slide. I can jump on here, I can jump up, and he'll immediately slide, right? I can jump up, he'll immediately slide after a certain amount of time. And you can tell that it's after a certain amount of time because if I stop here, so you can see here, this is a walkable ground. This shadow will tell you whether I've switched to the sliding ground. Immediately that timer starts after I move to the sliding ground, right? And that timer applies right the way through, even if I'm jumping, right? And this means something quite complex. Wait, hold on, let me try and get the camera into a place. So here we go. If I walk up this slope, eventually I come to a slowdown and slip out. Now it looks like it's the same way as Mario 64 does it. However, if I jump, you can see I don't slow down, but he still gets to a point where he can't climb it, right? He still goes into this sloping slide. Now that's actually happening based on how long you've been on this ground, on a slope, on something that is considered a slope. And of course it's entirely based on whether it's considered a slope. It doesn't care at all about the angle of the ground. And how do we know? Well, this is not considered slidable ground. It doesn't care about the angle at all. Mario 64 also has types of ground where it doesn't care about the ground surface angle. And of course Mario Odyssey also has this, but it doesn't have a slide system, and I'll explain that in a moment. The thing with Banjo-Kazooie is, like I said, it's based on how long you've been over this ground, regardless of whether you're jumping or not, right? That means that it's not based on whether you're touching the ground. So here we go, while I'm not touching the ground, that counter is still going down, the timer is still going down. So even though I can stand on the floor for a moment there, if I do this, I almost immediately come to a slide. And that's because the timer is counting while my shadow is over it. The shadow dictates, it's just sort of a visual implementation of it's a visual notification of what I'm standing on, what ground type I'm actually above. And that applies regardless of whether I'm standing on it or in air. So if I go over this, which this is actually considered standable ground. Whoops, I used the wrong button there. I'm getting used to using 3 camera controls all at once. This counts as walkable ground. This counts as slidable ground, right? Or non-walkable, right? What that means is, if I go over here and come back, right, then it will reset the counter. So let me show you. Here, slidable ground. Here, slidable ground. Right? And it doesn't matter how many times I jump, I will eventually get a slide, right? It doesn't matter how much times I jump, it's a timer. Well, but the thing is, if I go over here, it does matter how much time I spend, because now I'm resetting the timer every time I jump over this platform, because this platform is walkable ground. So every time I move over it, every time my shadow touches this area, it resets the timer. So I'm able to infinitely move over a sloped ground, never touching a non-sloped ground, and it resets the timer constantly. But that applies regardless of whether the ground surfaces are connected. So here we've got a ground surface down here which is walkable and flat. So even if I jump multiple times, I can't hold myself from sliding, right? I can't prevent the slide, but I can prevent the slide if I just move over that type of ground. So there we go. Because I'm moving over flat ground, I screwed up. Because I'm moving over flat ground, I'm resetting the timer constantly. So now I can infinitely walk on this type of ground until I completely fail and mess up. So yeah, it's really, really cool. Now, I did mention Mario Odyssey doesn't have the slide mechanic at all. Let's have a look at how Mario Odyssey does things. Mario Odyssey has replaced sliding entirely with this rolling mechanic, right? Now the thing is, it's entirely replaced. That means that even if I'm standing on some sort of rotated ground, and again, it's the same as Mario 64 and Banjo and Kazooie. It's actually Banjo Kazooie. I always used to call it Banjo and Kazooie. It's actually the same as those two games in that if there is a certain angle on the ground, it doesn't matter, right? The angle doesn't matter. It's dependent on whether or not that ground is slidable. It could be walkable ground, and then the game doesn't care about the angle until a certain angle where the game considers it non-standable ground at all, right? And that's all there is. There's no sliding mechanic. Now the thing is, there is still ground that you can't stand on that is technically slidable ground, but you don't slide on it, right? You can only roll on it. So let's have a look over here. In fact, this is the wrong way of doing it. What I should do is this, right? So there we go. Not this one, not this one. The summit path. Oh, I pressed the wrong button again. I keep pressing the wrong button. I think it's this area. Is it this area? It is this area. Exactly this. So here we go. We've got some slide only ground, right? Angle doesn't matter. Well, actually, it is the angle, I think, that causes it here. But as you can see, there's no sliding mechanic at all. That's because the sliding mechanic has been completely replaced by the rolling mechanic. So here we go. You can see I can roll up it and I can roll down it. And there we go. The rolling acts exactly like sliding does in other Mario games. So it's not like a new mechanic. It's actually just the same thing as sliding, right? And of course you can tell the same system applies because Mario can still run on that type of ground, right? He can still run on that type of ground, but when he's going too slow and he's switched to what would normally be a slide, he cannot slide because there isn't a slide mechanic. However, the difference here from a regular Mario game where he would automatically go into a slide, even though the slide has been replaced by the roll only works. Oh, I'll have to get that in a moment. The roll will only work if I'm holding the Z button, and that'll come to another thing in Banjo-Kazooie in a moment. But right now, let's focus on this. So here we go. As soon as I let go of Z, Mario will stop rolling. It doesn't matter whether he's rolling on flat ground or very, very tilted ground. So here we go. As soon as I let go of Z, he will stop rolling, right? And the problem there is that even though I'm on sliding ground, which would normally cause Mario to switch to a slide, he can't because I'm not holding Z, right? So the game can't switch him to a slide because I'm not holding Z, but it's also because there's no transition between a regular move like that and switching into roll. I'll jump onto this video again. I'll continue this video in a moment. It's time for me to take a call from somebody. So I guess this needs to be split into multiple videos. I'm having a lot of fun making this video. I'll see you guys in the next part. Thanks very much for watching. See you in the next one. Goodbye.